Hi, this is Kathy. Thanks for joining me. Welcome to Saturday's Chalk and Talk. I've got something a little bit different, a little bit out of the box for today, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. It might be a little messy, but I think it'll be a lot of fun and hopefully well worth the effort. I had a couple little things go a little south on me right before I started. Good old Facebook again. I couldn't get the menu. Rebooting the phone didn't do it. It was just craziness, so finally got it to work. So here I am. I apologize for being a little bit late. I am going to be doing a little bit of watercoloring with our chalk paste. And using the Dream Wildly transfer. And I had actually watercolored this a couple weeks ago on canvas. This is going to be a slightly different technique, and I think probably a little bit more fun, but this was a lot of fun too. And just a little bit to clarify this, I expanded on it a little bit because I realized once I was all done, I had a drop of paste somewhere that shouldn't have been there. So I said, well, you know, go with it like Bob Ross would. And I just did polka dots all over it. Let me bring that up for a little bit more of a close-up. But I think it handled it fine. I don't think anyone would realize I had an oops there that I was covering up. So I'm going to use the same transfer, but I'm going to be doing watercolor on cellophane. And I know some people might refer to this as watercolor on a baggie. And I've done in the past, last year maybe, I don't remember when, I did a series or a number of canvas panels on, they were watercolor on like a plastic garbage bag, a plastic trash bag, and that worked out really nice. Personally, for me, the baggies or Ziplocs or whatever brand seemed like with the watercolor, the water beat it up too quickly. So I'm doing it on cellophane, but you could try either way and see what works the best for you. I'm coming at you from the suburbs west of Chicago this afternoon. Grab yourself something to drink, get comfy, and we will get started. So like I said, this is a project that's a little bit out of the box. I'm using a couple different colors, primarily my berry and my marvelous for the leaves. Some green I'm going to mix up with yellow for the for the petals. I'm sorry, the green with some yellow for the leaves. And I'm probably going to do the wording in a copper shimmer just to give it a little bit of impact. Let me grab my yellow. I just realized I didn't have it out here. If you know someone who would enjoy this video, please feel free to share it or sprinkle it to them. I really appreciate that. It really helps with my distribution. So supplies needed for this project obviously are a transfer, some cellophane or a baggie, your chalk paste, some water and some brushes, and some watercolor paper. I'm still digging for my yellow. I pulled it out and now I don't know where I put it. It seems to be my normal the last couple days around here. It's just been a little crazy. I might, maybe if I don't find the yellow, I'll just lighten it up with a little bit of, maybe Shimmer Harvest even. Why not, right? I think I'll do that, being that I have it right here. And I am using 140-pound weight watercolor paper. Usually comes in a tablet. They're actually on sale at some of the craft stores right now. And then preferably a Sharpie marker. My black Sharpie wandered off, so I found this dry erase red one. That seems like it'll work. Tear my watercolor paper off the tablet. And let's jump in here and get started. Oh, and some color trays. If you don't have color trays, just grab some little dishes or anything that you could put, mix your colors in a little bit. Oh, there with my bottle of water. Let me get that out. So I put this transfer inside this little You know what, I'm going to turn it around because, oh, I'm just going to lift it up in this little cellophane bag. And all I'm going to do to start with it is basically trace the outline with my marker. And you might want to hold it in place while you do this. And you don't have to be perfect. This is just to give you a guideline of where your watercolor is going to go. You don't have to do all of it. You could do part of it. You could do all of it. You could do all the lines in the middle. It really depends on what you want it to look like. And isn't that the fun thing about crafting, is doing something the way you want to, adjusting or modifying it, thinking out of the box, not necessarily following instructions and just going with what you like. That creative process is so good for our brains. It helps us relax. It helps us in problem solving. It actually expands the mind somewhat. So never feel guilty exercising your creative side. Go for it. I'm a computer programmer or systems analyst by trade, so I use most of what I do for daytime work requires my analytical side, and my creative side is a nice counterpoint when I get a chance to do something creative to kind of balance things out. Plus it's fun. And I think this project is ideally suited for children. They would get a big kick out of it. It's great for adults though too. But it's something a little bit different. It's a little bit more involved than my normal chalk project. It'll take a little bit more time, but I think it is worth the time for the results. Drop me a line. Let me know where you're viewing from. Say hello. And if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to just drop them in the comments. If I don't see your comment immediately, sometimes Facebook is a little finicky and doesn't show me comments until after a video is complete, which is kind of crazy, but it happens. What can you do? So I've just basically drawn with a marker on the cellophane the design for my transfer. So I'm going to take the transfer out of the cellophane. And actually, this was a baggie, and I think I'm going to cut it. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not a baggie, it's a bag. And I think I'm going to cut it. Get rid of the other side with all the tags on it. Don't need it. And I'm going to actually put my watercolor on the reverse of this. So then when I transfer the image to my watercolor paper, I get an image that matches my transfer as opposed to the mirror image. If I wanted to do this and get the mirror image, I could put my chalk paste on the actual side that I drew the outline with and then get the mirror image of whatever. So if you ever want to do something that, I think we had a hedgehog before, that some people did 2 hedgehogs kind of nose to nose. If you ever need to do the mirror, this is one way of doing a mirror image. But I'm going to flip this over to the other side so that I get the same image. Okay, so I have a couple chalk trays here. Not sure what's going on outside. A bunch of sirens, and it sounds like they stopped close. Let me get some stir sticks here to scoop out some of my paste. Did I go over all the things we needed? We need watercolor paper, 140 pound weight, chalk paste in the colors that we desire, some kind of cellophane or baggie, a little bit of water, some paint brushes, a permanent marker, stir sticks, and obviously squeegees. So I am going to use my berry paste for the petals. I'm going to use berry and marvelous, and I actually am going to put them in the same color tray and just on opposite sides. because I'll use them individually and I'll probably mix a little bit. Cover that up. Oops. And the Marvelous is a little dry, but I'm adding water to it anyway, so I won't worry about that right now. They're similar in shade. The Marvelous is a little bit more muted though, whereas the Berry is just such a pretty light purple, or like lavender, if you will. And then I'm going to go with my Meadow Green, and I think I'm going to lighten that up just a tad with my Harvest Shimmer. And I might actually throw a little white in there. We'll see where we go with that. But I want to make sure I close all these up before I get started, because there's no reason to keep the cap off and let them dry out. And a little bit of haste truly goes a long way. And in theory, if you want to do multiple pressings of this at once, that is actually an option. Okay, let's see. And mix up my green and my Shimmer Harvest. Ooh, just want a little bit of Shimmer Harvest. And lighten that up a little bit. Get more of a yellowish green. Whoops. You don't want this to be too watery. Normally I use water to thin my chalk paste to paint with it, which is actually fine. But I don't want it quite as thin as I would to paint. I want this just a tad thicker because I don't want to deal with the water beading on the cellophane. Like I said, I had an issue with it beading on the baggies. That's why I went with cellophane instead. Try what you want. Just try a piece a little bit and see if it works for you or not. It might just be my brand of plastic bags that was the issue. And let's see here. These I like the colors that they are. I'm just going to add a little spritz of water and mix that up a little bit for both of them. And then basically I will paint this however I really want, mixing colors and whatever as you go along, just to get a feel and for however you want it. I am not going to paint the stem. I am going to paint the petals and the leaves though. Get rid of some of that paste. There we go. Just have fun with it. Isn't that what crafting is all about? If you are not familiar with Chalk Couture, Chalk Couture is a do-it-yourself home decor and more company. Basically, the company develops transfers, which we use to create this image on the cellophane, and chalk paste. Yes, our paste is actually made from chalk. It's water soluble, easy to clean up. And then we have another line of a medium that is our inks, and our inks can be used on ceramics, on fabric, on anything that you want the image or whatever to be permanent. The ink does need to be heat set, but once it's heat set, it's permanent. And anything that you would want to wash, you want to use our inks with. Our chalk paste can be used on wood, chalkboard, dry erase board, mirrors, glassware, ceramics, etc. And when it's used on like glass mirror or metal and chalkboard and dry erase boards, you could spritz it with water and use a paper towel and wipe it up and clean it up and basically reuse the surface. When you're using it on wood, not so much, because the wood is porous and the wood generally will absorb the pigment from the paint. So then you might have to paint over or sand it. But on the other surfaces, it's so great that you basically get a lot of use out of your chalkboards and dry erase boards, or like the metal, or even picture frames, because create something for a holiday or a special occasion, and then when it's over with or you tire of it, just add a little water, spritz it, wipe it off, and reuse the surface over and over and over again. Hi Deb, how you doing? So I'm mixing just a teeny bit of water with my paste to get the right consistency. I might have been a little bit too frugal here on the water. Now that's starting to look a little bit better. I don't need much of the green because I only have like 2 leaves to color in, 3 leaves. Seeing that this is beading a little bit, I've added too much water and it is beading a little bit too much. So I'm going to grab some of the paste that I haven't mixed with water and just kind of thicken it up a little bit. Come back over here and paint it. I am making a watercolor version of Dream Wildly. This was a Dream Wildly that I did a few weeks ago and did watercolor on canvas. This time I'm doing watercolor on cellophane and then going to transfer that to actually watercolor paper. And then use that, have my image on the watercolor paper. A little bit different. I think hopefully a lot of fun here. It's a little bit dark here, so I'm having a little bit hard time seeing what I'm doing. I'm going to put the light on. Let me know if there's too much glare or if it's okay. But it's gotten a little dark outside, so I'm having a hard time seeing with the light from the window what I've actually done. Is that too bright, or can you see? Maybe. Let me put one of these underneath it. Does that seem a little bit better? Oops. And it went out of the area here. These don't really have to be brush strokes, just kind of dab them. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with that green a little bit. But I think it'll be fine. And I've already added my water here. So I'm just mixing up a little bit of the paste with water, just barely thinning it, because I don't want it to bead on my surface. Oh yeah, this is perfect. A little bit of beading won't be bad, but if it's a lot, I'm going to have an issue. And I want to keep basically my cellophane in one place. I don't want it scooting around because I've already painted my leaves. And you don't have to be perfect here. If you're out of the lines a little bit, that's fine. That's part of what this project actually needs, is a little bit out of the lines. You'll see what I mean by the finished. You'll get it. It's a little bit different, kind of cool. Yeah, I've got this beading up a little bit too much for my liking. I might lay another coat down there just to kind of get around it. But just take your time and have fun with it. No sweat, just relax. And you could do some blending of colors here if you want. Add another layer of paste, moisten everything up if you need to. Just be sure to keep your cellophane in pretty much the same area so that your outline is consistent. I moved it a little bit, I realize that. You just kind of wet this up a little bit, drop a little bit more back on here where it's beading up. This is a little bit off, but that's okay. We'll roll with it. And I want to get the darker berry right here. Right there. Okay. Oops, maybe a little bit more right in here. And then I'm going to come back a little bit more with the green, hit my green again. Oops, maybe get a little bit too much there. We'll see. Okay, all the paint out of the way. I've got my 140-pound weight watercolor paper. And I'm going to gently spritz this very, very lightly. Oops, didn't want that drop there. Let me wipe that off. And I'm gonna, oops, I've got to, here, get this back moistened up a little bit. There we go. Now, I'm gonna take my paper, put it down, and gently flip this over and apply it to my watercolor paper. And then basically massage or move the paint around, the chalk paste around as ever I want it to. You could smooth it around a little bit with your fingers in there. You could leave some of the little white spots in if you want. Oops, I'm pulling off the red. Don't use a dry erase marker, use a Sharpie, which my Sharpie walked off, my black Sharpie. And just do what you want here. And let's see how these leaves look. Oh, our leaves need a little bit more work. Let's apply a little bit more of the paste. Press it in a little bit. Take a look. Ooh, this one needs, oh, I think this is fine actually. Let's look at the petals. Oh, I think that's good. Now, I'm going to take this up and put it aside. I could actually spritz it with water a little bit again and do another pressing of the watercolor. If I want, with watercolor paper, I could do a second image, if you will, or more. I played around today, and I think I probably did 3 or 4 of them on the same cellophane. So, I need this to dry. I've got my little dryer here. Isn't that berry just an absolutely beautiful color? So our paste could be used on lots of different things. Signs, lampshades, vases. I did some metal things around the holidays. And then our ink can be used on fabric and ceramic and glassware. We could actually even use etching paste and etch glass with our transfers. How cool is that? Now, if your watercolor paper buckles a little bit, no problem. That's just kind of the nature of watercolor paper. I'm not done with this just yet. Once I'm done, I'll probably let it totally dry, and if it's buckled at all, I'll just go back over it and iron the opposite side. You just get you got a little clump of paste there that's a little bit deeper. Let me make sure that's dry. And then here comes the transformation. Okay, now I need my fuzzing cloth. Let me get my little chalk trays out of here. Fuzzing cloth. Okay, I moved things around a little while ago, so things are not where I normally leave them. Here we go. Oops. I knocked over the iron. You could iron or heat press it, obviously, to flatten it. And I just need to find where I put that transfer. Here we go, behind my monitor where I hide everything. I'm going to fuzz this a little bit. Now, this transfer has been used quite a bit. It's one of my favorites, so it is definitely well used. Our transfers generally will get 8 to 12 uses out of them. The stickiness will, the adhesive will last for that. Even if you lose the adhesiveness, you could still use it. Tape it down with washi tape and go for it. So I'm going to center this on here and try and go over what I've watercolored. I want to get it lined up properly. And I think the best way of doing that is kind of trying to line up the leaves. I am going to be off a little bit, and that's fine. Because I actually want it to be off a little bit. I just don't want it to be off too much. And this to me seems like it's probably good right here. I'm going to lift up a little bit though and take a little peek at my leaves. I think this is fine. So now on to the next part. Here's the transformation. Wait until you see this. I am going to use our shimmer spruce for the leaves and for the stem. So let me do those first. Just grabbing a little bit of our shimmer paste with my squeegee, going over the transfer, removing any excess, making sure I've got good coverage, smoothing it out. Doing my stem, which I did not watercolor. I did that deliberately because I wanted it nice and dark for the shimmer, for the shimmer paste to really shine through. Our shimmer paste is a little bit like glitter, but not quite. It doesn't give you as much shimmer, but there's no mess to it. And there's a little bit of shine and shimmer to it. That's why it's called shimmer paste. Put the excess back in my jar and cover that up. And on to, I think I'm going to do the wording next. And I'm going to do that in copper, or shimmer copper. Want to make sure I don't go off my transfer onto my watercolor paper though. And I will probably trim this, and I haven't decided if I'm putting it in a photo frame or if I'm going to put it in a shadow box. I'm toying with the idea of a shadow box. I'll probably, oops, boy did I grab too much paste there. I'll probably let it dry, iron it or whatever, or maybe hit it with my heat set tool, and then decide what how I'm gonna display it. kind of hard to schedule things every now and then. Okay, so let me smooth this out. Got that. And then onto the shimmer for the petals. And I am going to use this beautiful shimmer plum. And just basically go over the petals. And I think this coordinates very nicely with the mauve and with the berry paste. Wait until you see this. Kind of dramatic, kind of sweet. Really, and I love the expression dream wildly. Don't let anyone ever dampen your dreams. Dream wildly. Go for it all. Believe in yourself. And go for it. Don't worry about how. That'll come. Just know what you want to do. Okay. Put the excess back in my jar. And let's lift this up and take a look at our results. What do you think? Now I'll trim the paper obviously to fit in where it eventually ends up being. But aren't those a nice combo of colors? And can you see some of the shimmer, especially in the copper? See it sparkle and shine? Woo! Pretty easy for a little Saturday afternoon project, wouldn't you say? And it has a little bit of drama and some flair to it. I really don't know, shadow box or photo frame. I'm torn. Maybe I'll try it in both. So I'll trim down the paper and we'll see where we go from there. Thank you so much for watching. I surely do appreciate it. You have an absolutely wonderful weekend. I'll see you soon.